Before the jet age, before the world of mass tourism, and before flying became normal, we saw one plane effectively own the skies. A machine so reliable and so well engineered, so beloved by pilots that they still speak about it nearly a century later, and the most remarkable part, a number of these aircraft are still flying. This is an aircraft that transformed aviation from a dangerous experimental industry into the global network we all know and utilize today. This is the story of the Douglas DC-3, the plane that pilots adored, the plane that airlines trusted, and the plane that engineers still study to this day. Sit back guys, because we are going to be discussing why the DC-3 is arguably one of history's most iconic planes. Before we do jump in though, let me just say, if you enjoy these videos that I make over here, please do leave a like and subscribe. You guys know whilst the setup here is quite basic, I don't use AI, I try and do all the research on these videos as well myself. Again, if you do appreciate it, please do subscribe because it does take me quite a lot of time to make these videos. Now getting back to the story, to understand why the DC-3 is so loved, you first need to understand what flying looked like before it arrived, and how dangerous this industry truly was. Flying in the early 1930s was a gamble. Planes were underpowered, they were structurally fragile, they were unstable in strong winds, difficult to land, and unable to maintain altitude in the event of an engine failure. Cockpits were often noisy, crammed, and poorly laid out, making it very difficult for pilots. At this time, flying was not glamorous. The Ford Trimotor, one of the most common airliners used in the US at this time, had an all-metal construction, but it suffered from a number of its own issues. It had poor aerodynamics, massive drag, it had primitive controls and was extremely slow at cruising speeds. It also had terrible climb performance. Essentially, this was how things were at this time frame, and this matters a lot when describing the story of the DC-3. To be a pilot in the 1930s, you had to have strength, you had to have strong nerves, and a degree of good luck behind you. And then there was an aircraft which shouldn't have existed, but one which changed the world. The DC-3 began with a phone call. In the early 1930s, Transcontinental and Western Air, TWA, needed a new plane, a competitor. United Airlines had just purchased the Boeing 247, a modern twin-engine airliner, and TWA demanded something even better. So they approached Douglas for a plane that could fly faster, fly further, operate safely at night, and carry more passengers, and stay in the air with even one engine dead. Douglas accepted the challenge. The first attempt was the DC-1, built in 1933. It was faster, it was safer, and smoother, and more technologically advanced than anything else in the sky at this time. The DC-2 came next, a longer improved version that airlines immediately loved, but it still wasn't enough, as American Airlines wanted a sleeper aircraft, something large enough to support overnight transcontinental service. So Douglas stretched the DC-2, widened its fuselage, strengthened its wings, and enhanced the control surfaces. They re-engineered and refined every part of the design, and the result was the DC-3, a masterpiece of engineering for this time. And this goes on to why pilots loved this plane so very much, because from the very first test flights, pilots were stunned. The DC-3 was not just an improvement, it was much easier to fly, safer and more predictable. It was more stable and more forgiving than anything before it. The DC-3 was shockingly stable. Flying older aircraft meant constant corrections, and the DC-3's wing design and control surfaces actually created natural stability. Pilots said the plane flew like it was on rails, it felt balanced, and it was a sort of plane that could hit altitude without trying to fight with you. It's safe to say that this was unheard of for its time. On top of this, the DC-3 could fly on only one engine, properly, as many twin-engine planes of this time started to descend when an engine failed, but the DC-3 didn't. It could maintain altitude, it could climb, and it could continue flying on a single engine, and this alone likely saved countless lives over the course of the DC-3's operation. The plane had a cockpit designed for pilots by pilots, because Douglas decided to work with experienced aviators in the engineering of the DC-3's cockpit. And this ended up leading to a logical layout in terms of cabin instruments. It ended up leading to good visibility, comfortable seating, easily accessible controls, on top of a predictable throttle response. It was one of the first aircraft designed with the human factors in mind, which I'm sure you can understand made it an absolute favourite amongst pilots for this time period. The plane also had tremendous low-speed handling, as landing older aircraft could end up being terrifying. The DC-3's wide wing, strong flaps, and high lift allowed more smooth approaches. Pilots said it was a forgiving aircraft, easy to flare, and stable in crosswinds. The DC-3 felt safe, and it was. Safety was the number one reason why pilots loved it. The DC-3 had a strong all-metal construction. It was a well-made aircraft. It had redundant systems. This meant that if something went wrong with the DC-3, you had a fighting chance, and pilots would never forget this. Again, this was at a time where flying was exceptionally risky, and the DC-3 was one of the first planes to really change this trend. And there was a number of factors that led to this plane being so remarkable. It wasn't just a good airplane, it was a masterpiece of design. Let's break down some of the most amazing features which truly made this craft. The first one is arguably the fact that the wing was revolutionary. The DC-3 used a carefully optimized wing that pilots loved. It had high lift at low speed. It was low drag at cruising speed. It had smooth stall characteristics, and this meant that it was much safer in takeoffs and landings. It also had an all-metal construction, something that you may expect, but it's important to understand that earlier aircraft models used things like wood, fabric, and wire bracing, so the DC-3, with its fully metallic structure, was a lot more strong, a lot more reliable, and a lot more durable. This plane also had a retractable landing gear, which helped to reduce drag significantly compared to fixed gear designs like the trimotor. It had more powerful radial engines. We're talking about the Pratt & Whitney twin wasps, which gave the DC-3 high altitude performance, reliability, and safety even after an engine failure, as we just mentioned. The plane also had incredible longevity. Some DC-3s fly over 80 years later, over 90,000 flight hours later, and millions of miles crossed all over the world. Many aircraft wouldn't even survive 3 decades, especially from this time frame, but the DC-3 continues to survive even after 8. So it's easy to understand why the DC-3 was loved even before World War II, but pilots absolutely worshipped it afterwards. The military version, called the C-47 Skytrain Dakota in the UK, became one of the most important aircraft of the entire war. It carried troops, it carried paratroopers, it carried supplies, medical evacuations, cargo, gliders. It carried everything, right? It flew in every theatre of the war. We're talking about a craft that went from Europe to Africa, from the Pacific to Antarctica. It operated from rough fields, jungle strips, frozen lakes, and places where no other craft was designed to land. Pilots joked that if the DC-3 had fuel, it would fly. If the DC-3 didn't have fuel, it would glide. The plane developed a mystical reputation for reliability, ruggedness, and survivability, and this wartime frame permanently carried its legacy going into the future. Speaking of which, I think it's about time that we talk about why the DC-3 refuses to die. Because yes, more than 80 years after its manufacture, the DC-3 still flies. We're talking about commercial missions in North Canada, in the Amazon, in South Africa, in Colombia, Indonesia, Alaska, just to name a few. This is an aircraft still flying nearly 90 years after its first flight. And if you're wondering why, the answer is actually quite simple. Because nothing really beats it. If we're talking about payload, if we're talking about cost and ruggedness as a combination, the DC-3 is cheap to operate, is easy to repair, it is able to land almost anywhere, and is perfect for short and rough airstrips. It's extremely reliable, it's also economical even in smaller operations, so it refuses to disappear because its design is still unmatched, as I say, nearly 100 years after its first manufacture. And yes, nearly 100 years on, that reputation still lives, because if you ask pilots who have flown the DC-3, their face will light up. They'll say things like, it likes to help you, it's a sort of plane which wants to teach you what flying really should feel like. It's the most honest airplane ever built. Because whilst many modern airliners are exceptional, They are missing something that the DC-3 continues to have: a soul. This is an aircraft with character, it has a personality, it's got presence, reliability, and a legend which has lasted the best part of a century. It's hard to find a plane that has lasted with such a reputation as the DC-3. But indeed, nearly 100 years on from its first flights, the DC-3 continues to transport people and cargo across the world. This aircraft is a testament to how well it was made, it's a testament to the missions it flew, it's a testament to aviation itself. The sort of plane that still inspires awe, and the sort of plane which still inspires us to be fans of aviation. So if you did enjoy the video, guys, please do make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for your time, and I do hope I'll see you again soon.